Hello YouTube, friends and family, bushcraft buddies. I was tagged by Bob 808 Night. Check him out. He does a real good job of bushcraft videos. He does cooking with Bob. He's got some real good ideas. I really love Bob. He's an awesome dude. I met him in Tennessee this year at a bushcraft meetup and spent about a week with him, and he's a great guy. And he tagged me on a video wanting to know when I found out that I love the outdoors. And I'm gonna do this video in front of my garden because I'm kind of proud of it right now, because I got 6-foot tomato cages and my tomatoes are 1.5 feet, 2 feet over the top of the cages, so I'm kind of proud of that. So I picked in front of my garden to do this video. I'm going to do a video on the garden update here shortly, but I need to get back to Bob 808 Night. He tagged me wanting to know when I found out that I love the outdoors. And you're going to need to get your hanky out, or your tissues, or whatever you need when you watch a movie that's a tearjerker, because this is a tearjerker. When I was a child, my mom overcorrected me. Matter of fact, she beat me pretty bad. She's pretty abusive. We had about an acre of property, and an acre just wasn't far enough to get away from her. But behind our property there was another 100 acres owned by a friend of ours. And I would take off and I'd run back into that woods and wait on my dad to get home before I'd come home. Well, he'd come home from work, and I was only 7, 8 years old. And he'd come home from work and she'd tell him, "You need to thrash that boy because he took off and he's been gone all day." Well, Dad would get me to the side and talk to me, and Dad was a real reasonable man. He was a good man. And he'd say, "What's going on?" And I'd tell him the story, and I'd show him the bruises and the things that my mother did to me. And he would go back in the house and he'd say, "Well, I took care of it. He's not gonna cause any more problems." And I never did get that whooping from Dad. But it got to where she would beat me more and more, because I think she knew that I wasn't getting that whooping from Dad. So she got to where anything she could pick up, she could hit me with. So I got to where I'd go out and I'd spend the night in the woods, just to get away from her. Got to where I'd spend 2 nights in the woods just to get away from her. And I always thought my dad didn't know where I was at. But he was a woodsman. He liked to fish and hunt and do things, and he did it on that 100 acres that was on that property of that friend we owned. And that's where he done his fishing and hunting and things he done. Well, I got to where I found out that if I took things in the woods with me, I could stay longer. I could take an axe one day, I could take a shovel one day, I could take string one day. I'd take kite string and tie things together to help me out making shelters. And I didn't even know what a shelter was. I just knowed I needed to be out of the rain. I'd hide a tarp out beside the garage, and next time I took off running, I'd grab that tarp and take with me. Well, I'd get to where if I knew I was going to spend a couple of days, I'd grab the fishing pole and I'd take off. I'd take snacks from the house and I'd hide them out in the woods. And I didn't know, that was a cache. And I didn't know that when I was a kid. I didn't know anything about bushcraft. I didn't know anything about nothing, except I just wanted to get away from the beating. Well, like I said, I always thought that my dad didn't know where I was at. But he went to die about 9 years ago, 10 years ago, and he had about a year left. And we went fishing one day, and he said, "Hey, you remember when you used to take off and you'd stay for 2 or 3 days? Nobody knew where you was at, and you wouldn't tell nobody where you was at." And I said, "Yes, Dad." And he said, "I was sitting on top of the next hill watching your campfire." He said, "I'd watch you down there, sit around that campfire and go fishing. and catch you some food. And he said, I'd watch you boil water so that you could drink water. And he said, I'd just watch you all night long. He said, till I knew I couldn't watch you no more. And then I'd go home, go to bed, and I'd go to work next day. He said, I'd come home from work, and my wife would say, you need to go see if you can find that boy. And he said, I'd go back out to the woods, and I'd sit on top of that hill, and I'd watch your campfire, and I'd watch you fishing, and I'd watch you taking care of yourself. He said, I knew you was safe. So I'd go on back to the house, and I'd go to bed, and I'd say, I can't find that boy nowhere. Well, then I got to finding out that in the wintertime it got mighty cold. And I learned that if I found me a pine tree and dug a little indentment under the pine tree, a little burrow out under the pine tree, and built some stuff up around it and built a fire at the edge of it, I learned that it could stay pretty warm there. So I even got to where I could stay out 2 or 3 days with the campfire in front of there in the wintertime. Well, my dad told me, he said, you know, he said, I always knowed where you was at, but I never bothered you because I figured when you was ready to come home, you'd come home. And I knew why you was out there, so I never bothered you. I just wanted to make sure that you was safe. And I really appreciate what my dad did for me back then. My dad covered for me. So Bob 808 night, I learned that I loved the woods because I was safe there. I learned that I was always safe in the woods. That's where I could go. That's where I could hide. If anybody was ever going to harm me, I learned that I could go there and I could hide and I could be safe there. And that's why I love the woods. When I go there today, I still feel safe. Thank you to my subscribers. I've never told that story really to a lot of people except my wife or a couple of people. But when Bob brought it up and said, tell me why you like the woods, I felt he deserved an answer. And I thought, I can finally get this off of my chest. My dad's dead now, my mom's dead now, and I'm still carrying this burden of this beatings around all this time. And I can finally tell my story and get it off my chest. So thank you for all my subscribers. Thank you for the few little comments that I get. Thank you for the things that you do. And thank you, Bob, for letting me get this story off of my chest. God bless. Have a good night. Okay, it's not the end of my video. Sorry about that. I'm supposed to tag a couple of people and find out why they like the woods. I'm gonna tag John at Diddy Bushcraft. Diddy Bushcraft. I'll put his channel down in the description wherever it's at. I'll put it down there. And I want to tag Mozark Outdoors. Mozark Outdoors does a lot of kayaking, hiking, and he tells the story of what he's doing and tells a story about everywhere he's at. He's got a story. And he does a lot of Dutch oven cooking. He does a lot of storytelling. He does a lot of hiking and kayaking, and you're going to love Mozark Outdoors. Diddy Bushcraft, John, I love you, man. And he does a lot of cooking videos. He uses Spam and macaroni and all kinds of things to do his cooking with. So go check out Diddy Bushcraft Outdoors and Mozark Outdoors, and make sure you go check out Bob 808 Night. God bless. This time I am done with the video. God bless. Have a good night.